Greetings. This is Skyler Saunders Singh. What's current? Now, today's going to be a little bit somber, a little bit more relaxed. I might still cut up a little bit, but that's only out of response to the fact that we have people that are planning right now as we speak, under the sound of my voice, who are plotting and planning to destroy this country. Now, it could be American terrorists or it could be abroad, which I think is more significant. Islamic totalitarianism, very long, um, concept and wording and just amount of letters. It just basically means that Islam and those who practice it, that are completely, especially radicalized, want to kill as many people as possible and then bring the rest of the people under the yoke of Sharia law. That's basically that's just the tipping point or the tip of the iceberg of what Islamic totalitarianism encompasses. Now, I say all that to say this. I say this on this day, September 11th, 2023. Whole lot different than 22 years ago on September 11th, 2001. Why? Why is that? Well, we had differences. We had a lot of changes in the years following or preceding 9/11, 2001, and I have to emphasize 2001 because you might stop somebody on the street corner, any given street, even New York or DC or somewhere around, and you say, "What year was 9/11?" And they scratch their head maybe and say 2003, 2004, and they may not even realize that how many years it was exactly that the events of 9/11 took place. So this show is in remembrance of all the individuals whose lives were taken from them. See, a lot of people say of the family members whose lives were lost. No, individuals and their lives and doing what they wanted to do in their life and primarily work. I say what 95 to 99% of the people were working that day or going to work, and they didn't expect any of that to occur. So it's important to make sure that it is said that those individuals were a part of it and the individuals that were left behind. Because we always like to say families. We love to say, oh, the families of the fallen and the fighters' families, police families, and the people who worked in the buildings families and were on the planes families. Yes, they had families, but what are families consist of? Individuals. There's no group without the individual. That is one thing I want to say. But like I said, preceding to September 11th, 2001, we had an impeachment of the President of the United States of America over something that was so trivial, so personal on his own level to show, like most politicians, that he's a vicious, depraved, and just completely disgusting human being. But that was none of the American people's business. We should have had no role in knowing what was going to happen with those whole proceedings and that whole run up and what was happening thousands of miles away. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, they call him the architect, the main architect of 9/11, 2001. Osama bin Laden, the ringleader. What was happening? They were like, "Hey, they're not even seeing this coming. They're not even going to see this coming. We're going to get this money up. We're going to get these plans together." They don't even care. They have no idea. They're not even going they're literally not going to know what hit them. The American people. That's what Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Osama bin Laden were scheming on and plotting on. I don't want to call them masterminds. I think that's too grand a title for vicious, ugly, disturbed, and completely evil individuals. So they were planning and plotting all the while in the late '90s. There was first on one hand the Clinton impeachment, and then on the other, when Bill Gates was a good guy in everybody's eyes, and to an extent, I mean, people still threw pies in his face and stuff like that, and still hated him because of his efforts and his riches. But he put up a good fight, in my opinion, against the antitrust laws in the late '90s. And so we were concerned with things like that. We were all concerned with that. And of course, coming up, year 2000, Y2K, oh my God, the computer systems are going to go haywire. Everything's going to be all upset. Everything's going to go crazy when the ball drops, and the year 2000 rolls over. We're all going to go bananas. Everything's going to go into a frenzy. What happens? Nothing. That's the sick and twisted irony. And furthermore, 2000, the year 2000, what happened? We had the presidential election and the infamous Florida recount. So we were concerned with that. And to put another point on it, we had the idea of how disunified and divisive we were. We were divided over Republican and Democrat. Again, this is before September 11th. It wasn't just, oh my God, we're so divided now. Oh, this is terrible. This is horrible. I can't believe we're just so divided. No, we were like that way before. At least, if a few months before September 11th, 2001. Talk about November 2000. And the way that former President George W. Bush came into office. That's something to, concern yourself with. That's something to contemplate. We were so worried about how many counts. I mean, it makes, now, we have the Trump issue and January 6th and all this whole big cluster quagmire. It seems very minute and very small in comparison, but at that time, that was major, huge news. Who's got the count? Who's got the recount? What's happening? What's going on with this country? And we had this whole idea of that we're splitting apart, we're being divided, and all the while, Osama bin Laden, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and all the hijackers and everybody, they're all planning, they're all plotting, they're all getting ready. They knew, hey, they're not even. Once again, this is the third time, and I'll say or fourth, with Bill Clinton, with Bill Gates, but Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Y2K, and the recount completely just had no. We were not even. It was not on our radar screens. It was on our our movie screens. There was a Denzel Washington movie. Can't remember the name of it offhand right now, but it showed the number one top terrorist at the time was Osama bin Laden, and there was a scene where a bus was exploded. So this is the siege. The siege. That's the name of the movie. The Siege came out in 1998. So and that's another thing with the World Trade Center, especially. Oh, it was unimaginable. Really? You ever heard of Godzilla? You ever heard of Independence Day? You ever heard of so many other novels and books and plays and movies that have purported or shown this is the end of New York City? We got to have some kind of monster or some kind of attack on this soil. So it was completely imaginable. It was completely fathomable, completely, totally. So we can't say that. We can't say, oh, it was imaginable, unimaginable. Oh, I couldn't fathom this could possibly happen. Yeah, only because you were distracted by those other ideas from the '90s and early 2000s or 2000. That's what like really pisses me off. That really angers me. How I was just a kid. I was 12 years old. I was 13 years old when September 11th, 2001 occurred. There's no I couldn't do anything. I wasn't in position of power or anything like that. I had no agency. I was just a student in 8th grade. And we were just perplexed. We didn't know what to make of it. We were just, all right, everybody dress up like it's patriotic day. Wear your jerseys and your red, white, and blue, and woohoo, go America and everything like that. But it just didn't have the substance. It didn't have anything ringing true. So I say all that to say this, as the cliche goes. Um, September 11th, 2001 represents something that is so ingrained in the American psyche. So ingrained. There are other regions that use 911 or 911 on their emergency toll numbers. But especially in the United States of America, that's all we know. I remember when I was 3 years old, I dialed 911 and they said, they had to call back and say, somebody dialed, from this household, and I was, reprimanded, just told, you don't call that number just to call it. You have to call in case of emergency. And I learned from then on, from that point on. And it just is ingrained in our psyche. That was a psychological thing. That's what terrorism is, a tactic. It's a psychological tactic, especially. So we're all going to remember, if we have to remember. That's the thing that's best to say. Never forget is a negative. Always remember is the positive. Always remember. Always remember. That's the key to this. That's the whole opportunity to see if we have the merit and the temerity and the strength to know what we're doing with our lives. So that's what September 11th stands for me. I mean, I remember that day specifically. My stepmom, she cried. The first time I ever seen her cry in my life, in my entire life. First, I mean, I remember just when your foot falls asleep. That's how I felt in my entire body. My entire body was that like buzzing numbness, that weird, feeling when your foot or your hand falls asleep, or some part of your body falls asleep, quote unquote. I don't know the specific scientific term for your foot falling asleep. You may not either, but you can look up on the internet. I can look it up right now if I wanted to. But yeah, I actually will do that. I have time. It's a medical term. It's peripheral neuropathy. The abnormal sensation of having your hand or foot fall asleep is a temporary paresthesia. So that was a lot of wording for just saying foot falling asleep. So that's what it was like. I was completely numb. I didn't have any feeling in that. And then I had the idea of, how September 12th occurred. September 12th is a famous date because it's almost as important as September 11th. It's like a notch below. It's like the tower without the antenna. That's how it's just a little bit lower, because that was the day everybody whipped out their flags, put them on top of their pasted the ones that you could decal on your car, or place them on the antenna, or place them on the back, wave, have a big flag on your pickup truck that you're rolling down the street, and everybody was saying, we love you, we hugging and kissing, and it's happy, and you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I don't care, I still love you, it's all good, everything's cool, except you Arabs. We're gonna rob you, we're gonna kill we're gonna assault you, we're gonna insult you, and everything like that. And that's disgusting, because they had nothing to do with it, most likely. On probably 99% of the people that were attacked, that were of Arab descent, or of brown people, basically from the Middle East. guess you can say, or or was it Southwest Asia? You know, so that was a disgusting, action that those were disgusting acts that were, perpetrated against those individuals. But for the most part, America was all, waving the flag and God bless America. I don't know if that's in the public domain or not. I'm gonna be careful. I'm not gonna sing the whole thing to spare you your ears. But that song just resonated, and that's what's weird about those songs. Those songs are all about geography. Like we have the greatest, cliffs and mountains and hills and fruited landscapes and grain and America the beautiful. This land is your land. God bless America. All of them, from the mountains to the prairies. I mean, oh beautiful, for spacious skies, amber waves of grain. Like this from the East Coast. Uh, this land is made for you and me. Like this, what? It's our ideas. It's our Declaration of Independence. That's what makes us exceptional. That's what makes us great. We hold these truths to be self-evident that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all hold on, let me slow it down. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yes, Richard James comes in. He's coming into the picture. Thank you for stepping in, and thank you, Billy Spleen, for making a like on my story. I appreciate that. I'll get back to that later. But we have to focus on today. Horrible day, but it really didn't have to be. It didn't. It should have just been business as usual. And that's what happened with New York, September 12th. It was business as usual. They said, "Hey, we're going back up in this Chrysler building. We're going back up in this Empire State building. We're going back up in all these other structures, and we're going to continue with work, because that's what they were doing, working or about to work." They were discussing, "Oh man, did you see the game last night? Oh man, yo, whew." They were just coming off of the Monday Night Football at the water coolers, and it just turned into a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And we have to admit, and we have to acknowledge the incompetence of our government. I mean, that's an understatement in a lot of ways. The inability for them to properly protect us, while they're so concerned with people selling drugs, people prostituting, people, doing all these different things that aren't related to terrorism or to the tactic of, scaring people, or, bringing into the idea of hate, evil. They made a daggone GWAT. They call that in the military a GWAT, Global War on Terrorism. Now, what the hell is that? What the hell is global war on terrorism? What is a war on terrorism? What is a war on a tactic? Go back to World War II. Was there a war on kamikaze pilots? Was there a war on Panzer tanks in Germany? No. We had a war on their entire infrastructure, their entire country. We dropped 2 bombs. We forget about that. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We always forget about that. Although we remember it every year, just that one day a year, August 6th. Came back from August 6th, 1945, and then they have the memorials and the peace symbols and everything like that. And that turned into something amazing. We became allies with Japan again. We were allies, then we were enemies, then we were allies again, and to an extent that's more even greater. It's even greater. They became westernized. They got, Hello Kitty and Tamaguchi and all Tamagotchi and Nintendo and Toyota and Sony, all these different companies come in and we're all good again. It's all gravy. It's like you struck us, we fought in the field, then it was like, you know what? To save lives on both sides, we've got to drop these bombs. These bombs got to be dropped. And it's going to help out on both sides. We're not going to lose people on our side, especially, and you're not going to lose sides on people on your side either. That's what these bombs are designed to do. That's what their whole purpose is for, and that's what we should have done. And it's not too late. You can have a day, but I would say, and I could be wrong. Please correct me. Say no, that's not proper strategic uh, planning, and that's not a proper way of going about it. Say whatever you will. I'm just saying, in my mind and what I understand as would have made sense, if we had dropped nuclear weapons on Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and Tehran, Iran, if we had dropped atomic bombs, or if we had dropped hydrogen bombs, which are even more explosive and more impactful on these locations. Richard James is saying he'll never forget this country for dropping a Hiroshima. I don't know why. We saved lives. The whole goal was to win. Even if we had, I think it was 11 POWs, American POWs that perished in the bomb blast. 11, I think. Let me make sure. I can make sure. I try to find out how many POWs. And 12, excuse me, I missed it by one. Missed it by one. 12 American prisoners among the thousands killed at Hiroshima. Uh, that that were they were murdered. They weren't murdered. They were killed. They just died. They they didn't survive the blast. I will watch Oppenheimer in good time, and I'll see that he was right. He had it was a terrible way of conveying his consciousness and his his mind, that he had to do this very heavy thing. It's not like I'm taking this lightly, like, oh yeah, just bomb him. Yeah, that's all you got to do. No, this is a very serious, severe, and heavy sense of living, sense of being. That's why he said, I'm become death, destroyer of worlds. He had that whole idea about him. So it stands to reason that we attacked the people that attacked us. 15 of the 19 hijackers were from where? Saudi Arabia. Is that a coincidence? Osama bin Laden. For what it was, where was he born? Where was Osama bin Laden born? Saudi Arabia. So it's I wouldn't say it's a coincidence. They say, oh well, Saudi Arabia is America's allies. Yeah, yeah, like Ike Turner was a great husband to Tina Turner. And he was a model husband. Saudi Arabia, and especially Iran. Iran, you can't even. There's no question. Death to America. Death to America. They're dancing in the streets on 9/11 and 9/12 of 2001. You're not going to tell me. You're not going to tell me that Iranians. I'm not saying everyone, but I have to say, in the context, it's got to be like Japan and with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'm sure they were good people that wanted the war to end, people that were offended and terrified by their government's you know attacks on America, but they died too. They perished in the bomb blast. And then It wasn't surgical. This wasn't a surgical move. This was an all-out offensive, completely. Okay, you're misspelling words there, Richard James. But it's not about innocent people dying. It's about victory. It's about winning. It's about saving as many lives as possible. If you want to go back, you can go back to the Civil War. My favorite general of all time, Sherman, William Tecumseh Sherman, one of the greatest generals besides maybe George Washington and George S. Patton. You know, he's probably the greatest general next to them because he was like, war is hell. It's disgusting. It's horrible. It's a terrible thing. And he had a whole plan to tear up railroad ties, to break down telegraph cables, to ransack different munitions places and places where they make the uniforms. You know, very few. This is a fact. Look this up. Very few people on the opposite side, on the Confederacy, the civilians, and on the Union, died under his campaigns, his march to the sea, as they call it. Very few, if any, were killed or injured. There were, of course, killing. You know, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of deaths, but there were very few compared to the massacres of Gettysburg and other locations that lasted throughout the war. So it's apparent that we should have that same mentality when we go into war. We should not have gone into Iraq. We shouldn't really have gone into Afghanistan. And from my point of view, I'm just a lance corporal, retired lance corporal. I'm not a general, I'm not a colonel, I'm not even a second lieutenant. I'm not even a corporal. This is just me, my opinion. This is just my message on September 11th, 2023, talking about September 11th, 2001. I would say that we should have invaded Iran. We should have invaded Saudi Arabia. That's the key. That's the kicker. Those two places, and things would have been a lot different. Things would have been a lot different. We may not have been this divided as we are now. Maybe it's like, this is an extra shot, or like nitrogen, nitro, or something like that, compared to when we were divided in 2000 between Democrat and Republican. And then there was that slight bit of hope and change, with the former President Obama. There was a little bit of unity there because it was the first black president. He's really mixed. He's not really black. I mean, technically, he's white and black. Come on, blah, blah, blah. We can equivocate with that all day long, but the thing is, he's a man of color, the first man of color to ever hold the highest office in the United States. That was a fact. And that brought us together. And you have people like the late John McCain, who championed President Obama after he conceded his campaign against him. So, those were days that are long gone. That was like a little flicker. There was like a flame, and September 12th, 2001. That was the flame. That was burning. Then it kind of just petered out a little bit, just kind of fizzled out. And we get to where we are today. Like I said, I'm just a lance corporal. I was in the United States Marine Corps. I went for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only: money and benefits. I wasn't kidding. My recruiter said, "Hey, when your first day of boot camp, you get paid." He never lied to me. That's what they say. What do recruiters lie to you about? My recruiter never lied to me, not ever once. He never let me down. Never, not once. So I appreciate the fact. Well, thank you for your support, Richard James. You still keep paying your taxes because I still collect those deposits. No, but seriously, I'm wearing all black. I'm trying to give a sense of somber tone to this podcast because I'm really kind of pissed off. Like it's still when I look at the images, I'm like, God, all those lives, all those individuals, all those passions and pursuits, and want to make things better, want to build, want to create, want to make. When I see that, I'm looking at my one of my heroes was Howard Lutnick. If you're not familiar with him, he's the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. And Cantor Fitzgerald, they had the most losses. Everyone that showed up that day and from Cantor Fitzgerald perished because it was either directly in the strike zone or um, in a close perimeter to the strike zone where the plane hit. So, what did he do? He took it upon himself to make sure that all the families, the individuals of the people that were killed and their lives were taken, they were to be looked after. They're to be made sure that they had the proper standing. I think he gave a scholarship. I'm not 100% sure, but he had an idea that let's get back to work. Let's get back to work. I think they're. I don't even know if their offices are in New York anymore. I want to make sure. Uh, I think they're in Boston by now, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me make sure. Cantor Fitzgerald. Yeah, it's on 101 Federal Street, Boston, Massachusetts 0211110. Cantor Fitzgerald. So they moved, and so but he took flack. He took a lot of flack because he wanted to get back to work. He lost his brother. Well, his brother was taken from him. Let me correct myself. His brother was taken from him by vicious, evil, disgusting human beings that were less than human beings in my estimation, because they chose not to be. Um, he lost his brother in the again. His brother was killed in the attacks, and he made the decision to get back to work. And people didn't like that. People were like, "We need more time to grieve. We need more time, to have a sense of solemnity." But he just said, "We got to work. We got to go back to work." I respect that. He's one of my business heroes, Howard Lutnick. If you never heard of him, look him up. Look up his brother. Look up his life. That's the thing. I mean, I'm listening to the names being read, and I'm like, if they say, you know, they're looking down upon us, and we hold you in our hearts, and I'm like, okay, I give them that. They're believers. I'm an atheist. I know there's nothing above. I know they're not looking down, shining upon us. Because what do they? Is that what they do all day in heaven? You look down on your family members, the individuals that comprise a family, and you say, "Oh, I have to look after them in his baseball game. I have to look after her in her dance recital. I have to." Come on. I mean, yeah. When you get into specifics, they look down and party. Okay, but when you get into specifics, that's when you get into trouble. You start saying God's got you in the palm of his hand. Well, how big are his hands? Or is he missing a finger? Or does he have rings on his fingers? Does he have laminate on his nails? Does he have polish? Or you start getting specific, then you get into trouble. That's when it gets weird. And I would never fault somebody, and especially I mean, if it came to it, I would say it right in their face, but it wouldn't have to get to that point. I don't think. We're in desperate need of a proper philosophy, and that proper philosophy is of Ayn Rand's, especially. There's proper philosophies. I mean, if you before Ayn Rand, you could have been completely rational, completely eh, selfish. You could have been everything. And that's another thing. Oh my God. His selfless, unselfish sacrifice. And that's just running to the ground. That's just, that is just, it's not even that it's running to the ground. It's just that it's not true. The firefighters are running in the opposite direction because not just because it's their job, it's because it's part of their spirit. It's part of their soul. It's why they wanted to become a firefighter. They didn't want to become a firefighter to run with everybody else. They became a firefighter because of the selfish desire to aid other people. That's selfish. That's not selfless or unselfish. That's completely selfish. That's something that says that I want to do something. That's the main thing. Not we want to do something or they want to do something. If you're non-binary, maybe, but you don't say as a collective we must do this. It's I must do this. I have to keep running in the opposite direction that everyone else is flowing from me. The police officers, they have to maintain order. They have to continue to fight and for the streets, you know, fight crime in the streets. They don't do it out of selfless duty. They do it because of selfish and selfish fulfillment. They're fulfilling something that is deeply rooted in their soul. And I don't mean that mystically. I mean that in the sense of their personality, their character, that whatever that makes them them. That's what I mean by soul. So many people will take it upon themselves to not realize what it means to be a complete human being. So many people do not realize how almost 3,000 people perished, were extinguished, were killed, were taken from this earth, taken from life. That's one of the things I do, honor is when they say, he worked on the 92nd floor, he worked on she worked on the 101st floor. Talk about their work, their life. And they one of the family members, one of the individuals said, she went into the building that day to work. She went in to provide for her family. That's selfish. Her family, that's the key term. Her family, her. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't get it. You look at the Pentagon. I mean, in Shanksville. Pentagon and Shanksville are very interesting because we forget about them. Those are the ones that are forgotten because those are the ones that weren't fully established. Their targets were not fully demolished. The Pentagon rebuilt in like a year, 2 years, something like that, less than. It was functional and like nothing ever happened. In Shanksville, Flight 93, you got the people that have something going on here. There's planes being hijacked. We could be the next one. Oh my God, we are the next one. We're not going to take this. Let's roll. And that's something that's contentious in the military. This is the thing with the military that's very confounding to me. It's not championed that you be sincere, that you be quiet, but you be strong. It's that you be cynical and that you just do your job and get wasted, basically. That's the mantra. The latter is the mantra of what I noticed when I was in the Marine Corps. They don't want you to be motarded. That's a no-no in a sense. That's what that means. Motarded is just a portmanteau or a combination of words of motivated and retarded. And what that implies is that you're so motivated, you're so over the top. You're wearing red, scarlet and gold, and You got a high and tight, you got a high and tight haircut. You got, you know, you got decal on your pickup truck, and it's all red and gold, scarlet and gold, and you make sure you're squared away and everything is all right. And there's nothing with being squared away, but what I'm trying to say is that when you have somebody that's very motivated, and it's clear to see that they are, it's almost, I see the suspicion, but I think there's a very deep truth to it, because they really want to be part of something that is larger than themselves. No, I'm kidding. Not I'm not seriously saying that. They want to be an individual, an individualist, because everybody is an individual, but not everybody is an individualist. So we have different things like Vet TV, which I love. They have great content, but I don't know if it's called Vet TV for a reason, because only vets can really appreciate it the most. I mean, outsiders, they can say, "Oh yeah, that's funny, that's clever," But for the most part, it's about veterans, and it's about people that understand exactly what is said, the lingo, the jargon, everything that goes into it, and the thing that I don't like or understand really is when they say things like, "Oh, this if you laughed at this episode, make sure you pass it along to another veteran who may be struggling and maybe feeling some type, feeling that they're suicidal or something like that." Then they show the suicide hotline on the screen. Uh, so it's just, it comes down to a point where you have to be on guard against people that are cynical and sarcastic and want to make jokes, and all that's fine. I think if you make the proper joke, then it works. Louis C.K., there is no God, but God bless that man, because he knows how to weave a 9/11 joke into something that you never expected. You don't expect him to say what he's gonna say. You expect him to say something that's gonna be derogatory and vicious, but he flips it. He says, like, he gives it a different spin on things. So I have to salute him for that, because he, before his quote unquote fall from grace, he was talking about 9/11 jokes a long time ago. Then after his fall of grace, he was still talking about 9/11 jokes. That's called integrity. I don't care. He didn't kowtow. He didn't say, "Oh, I can't say this anymore because of this incident that I was involved in." He doubled down. He said, I'm gonna still say it, because that's what we need. That's what is so necessary within our culture. That's what's so should be ingrained, is the fact that we can laugh and then have the point where we can be very serious. That's what drama. That's what good art is for. Art is a recreation of a artist's value judgments. I'm missing the whole definition, but that's essentially what it is. It's what you value the most. It's what you understand the most. That's what is so clear. And that's what a lot of people don't really understand or see, when it's just so clear. So, like I said, I went to the Marine Corps, money and benefits, came out, got money and benefits. I think everything worked out for me. I hope it works out for the next person that raises their right hand to support defending the Constitution of the United States of America. Hope so, because it's getting to a point where it gets to a point where there's still a point. It gets to a point where it's like it happens to be terrible, but we can work around the terror. We can work around all that, because it's not a global war on terrorism. It's on Islamic totalitarianism chiefly. And I mean, I argue back and forth in my mind. I'm going back and forth in my mind, because Some of the words are very. It's not just the words. It's not just the words. It's not just the fact that Islamic totalitarianism is a are two terms that are very heavy and not really talked about from education and things of that nature. When you're in high school, they say it was religious radicals. Well, radical is a relative term. I'm a radical. I'm a radical for capitalism. So many different words are like that. Radical is just one of them. Just depends on how you use it. But they say, oh, the radicals for Islamic idealism or something like that. And I used to just, think it was that. And then I remember that the fact that, is it Islam? Should it just be Islam? I know there's an artist, famous artist. He won a contest in Texas. His name is Josh Faulstein. Great guy. Met him at Ocon. He's a great guy. And he was like, it's just Islam. He's a converted atheist like myself. I was a Christian and I converted to atheism through Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism. And he has, very close ties to objectivism as well. But he said, it's just Islam. Why don't we just say it's Islam? Call it a day. Why Islamic totalitarianism? Because it's specific. It hits to the nerve. It's surgical. I guess that's the reason why. It's the difference between surgical and, making a chainsaw, But I'm still wrestling with that. I wrestle with it, honestly. I'm gonna have to get a clear understanding through, Dr. Yaron Brook or Dr. Gate or Elon Journo. These are men of the Ayn Rand Institute that have, had written books, detailing about Islamic totalitarianism. And Bosch Faustine's just like Islam. Like I'm just like Christianity. That's the thing. I'm listening to all the names, and they're like, I know God is shining down upon us, and you're in heaven, and oh, it's so great. I know that's wonderful. Everything is great. Your mommy and daddy still love you, and your three grandkids are still doing great in school, and everything. It's like in desperate need of a proper philosophy. Desperate need. No joke. Complete need of a proper philosophy that states that there is existence that exists. A is A. Thing is itself. When you give me existence of a god or gods, then I'll believe. But it wouldn't be belief. It wouldn't be faith anymore. It would be fact. That's the key. That's what's so ironic. They think that God exists, but they still have faith. You have to believe in it. You have to believe in something that it doesn't exist, but you say that God and Jesus are real. How can you say that? How is that even possible? How do you say that Jesus is a real thing and the truth when there is no reality to say that he is a spirit? Maybe he did walk the earth. Again, I'll go back to my previous post, but okay, so he walked the earth. So he said that he claimed his way to the unknown and the unknowable. He said that there was a God. He said that there was a God. That's one thing that's very, compelling to me. Very interesting. Something that really, rattles my cage, as they say. World's population, and it's got to be like 70 or 80%, maybe 85% of American population that are under the spell of mysticism. That don't have any. Some people live their entire lives never even questioning Why is water wet? Why does the ground feel this way? Why does the sun feel this way? What is my body made up of? What is the content? And have that apply to atheism, because you got scientists that believe in Jesus and God or Allah or whatever, Muhammad, Moses. They know this, the scriptures. But they also know science. You will see very few people champion the idea of atheism. I use atheism just to say the noun, or the idea of atheism, of being an atheist. Not that it's a separate philosophy. That'd be improper. But when I looked into discovering what it meant to be an American, it really means to be not only free, but choosing to be free. You have to earn your freedom. And especially in the military, you have to earn everything. Nothing is free in the military. You think your food is free, you think your clothes are free, all that is still paid for. All that has to come out of your check. It feels like they're free because you just go up to the counter and you don't have to pay any dollars right there, but it still costs. And then lives are taken away. Horrific, days like September 11th, 2001 could creep up on us. That's the thing I saw on the news. Can it happen again? Will it happen? Where will it? What will happen? What is going to happen? I mean, we're busy. We're busy again talking about former President Donald Trump and all the shenanigans that go with him. And we're once again thinking about one thing and not considering another. Excuse me. We're not thinking about our own safety. We're not even considering it. That's one thing that is totally against and an anathema to who we really are. We should be strong and willed and mighty and powerful because we earned that right to be that way. Like I said, the Declaration and the Constitution, especially the Declaration. The Declaration is the most important political document in all of human history. Nowhere else did anyone say something about a pursuit of happiness. What? What do you mean, pursuit of happiness? What are you talking about? How can they be happy? How can you be somebody? You're supposed to be dutiful. You're supposed to bow down to the king or the tribesmen or the collective. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's the real meaning behind capitalism. Property rights, and chiefly individual rights. That's what it's all about. That's what the whole scheme of things it really means. We have to look at that as something that is true and real and to be understood. Something that doesn't have to take on the problems of the world, but exactly shows the world who and what we are. Now, of course, it's easy to say, well, I'm not going to say easy to say. It's clear to say that America is in decline. And yes, America is in decline. But if we can have a renaissance, if we can have a rebirth, if we can have a completely changeover of how we see ourselves, and it's not going to be an elected official. You can't just say, oh, we just got to vote for the right person and they'll create everything better for us. Maybe down the line, that could be true. But it has to start within our own characters, our own spirit, our own souls. We have to be the ones to do it. That's the thing. That's the key to all of this. We have to be the ones that want to do that, to carry that extra load. to be the ones that are so focused on what we're supposed to be doing. And all those lives. I mean, they say, you know, and my grandfather and my aunt and my mom and my nephew, did it have to be? I wonder about the FBI and the CIA. These are the most brilliant people in the world. Brilliant, intelligent geniuses. A lot of them. Not all of them, some of them. But they're pretty darn smart. I can say that much. To put it in a very simplistic way. Um, they're very smart. They're very smart people. It's in the hello, duh. It's in the title, Central Intelligence Agency, and the FBI is just right behind them with guns. I think the CIA doesn't even carry guns. I can't remember. They have to be special unit or special force that has guns. But I know FBI definitely carries guns. And what do we have to do with them? What are they doing right now as I speak under my voice? What are they doing? Are they prepared for the next attempt? Are they how many attempts in 22 years have occurred? Do they release that or they can release that? Can they? It's a curiosity. They may have stopped thousands. Thousands. They didn't stop 2013, the Boston Marathon bombing. It wasn't as catastrophic, but it was very vicious and it was very messy and very nasty. And 3 people died. Now you look, oh well, 3 people compared to almost 3,000. Oh my God! But it's not a numbers game. It's a fact about lives being stolen from them, being taken from them. No matter if it's one person or if it's a billion people. Of course, the billion people will get more coverage and get more press. And oh my God, I can't believe a billion people just died. But that one person's life is just worth as much as anybody else's. It's all about individualism, egoism, selfishness, not selflessness, not unselfishness, not sacrifice. We're so ingrained. It's so embedded in our spirits and our souls and branded on our minds that you got to be selfless. It's a fear thing, I think. Part of the military is a fear thing because they don't want you to be on the battlefield in a firefight and then run away and then consider that as selfish. That's selfless. That's unselfish and irrational. If you run away from the fight, you have to engage the fight. That's selfish. You're protecting your values, if they are in fact your values, your fellow Marine, Airmen, soldiers, Coast Guardsmen, if they're over there, wherever they may be, sailors and Marines. That's how serious all this is. That's what this day is. Every year, I'm glad they do it. It's similar to what the Jewish people do. The Jewish people have a moment where they step out of their car. This is their Memorial Day, not our Memorial Day where we sell mattresses and go to the beach and go on boat rides. No, this is like in Israel. Israel, they step out of their cars when a horn sounds and they stand at attention and they wait for a moment of silence and they resume their day. That's kind of what we do now. We talk about every name is read, no matter where they were. In New York, they read people from Flight 93 in the Pentagon, even not just the people in the towers. So it's amazing to see the fact that we have so many people wanting to be part of realm, that realm that says that September 11th, 2001 is something that can't be copied again. We have to be on guard. And we have to make sure our officials are on guard because that is the true meaning of a government, to protect its citizens. And through the agencies of the military, police force, and the judiciary. Those are the proper roles of government, the proper agencies. So I want to end on this note saying thank you for your time. I want to, address all the individuals who are still living and may have been affected severely, closely by September 11th, 2001, and say that you have all the power in your hands. You don't have to look towards, mysticism or anything like that, or corrupt ideals. You can be an individual yourself and remember your fallen victims because they're actually victors and winners. Thank you very much. Take care.